My next topic is going to be Jamal Murray. Now, I believe Jamal Murray, point guard for the Denver Nuggets, has proved that he is a star in this playoffs, especially against the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, that team, right? And let's get into why, right? Why has Jamal Murray proved he's been a star? He wasn't exactly amazing in the regular season. Less than 20 points per game. Nothing spectacular, right? Came out of Kentucky, we've all been waiting for him to make that star jump, but he never really has. But in Game 3 against the Los Angeles Lakers, he put up 28 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists, on 10 for 17 shooting and 4 from 8 from 3. Now, I believe that in itself is a stat line that you can't really ask for much more from your point guard. And that's why I do believe he's a star, right? You can't really ask more from a point guard than that stat line. Yeah, you could be like, oh, well, why don't you just go get 40 then? But he almost put up a triple-double with 28 points. And on top of that, he hit a dagger 3 to stop a huge Lakers comeback in the fourth quarter. The Los Angeles Lakers actually were starting to make a huge comeback in the fourth quarter. They were down 20 at one point, and they brought it back to within 3 later in that same quarter. And Jamal Murray had the presence of mind and the shots, the great, amazing shots that he took, to take that game and win it for the Nuggets. Hold on, stop the bleeding, really clutch out that game for the Denver Nuggets, right? And that's something that you really only see stars do, right? You can see a big shot from a role player, like you think of Robert Horry had some shots for the Lakers where he, really went off and clutched up sometimes, but he didn't have the same performances that Jamal Murray has had so far. And I don't even think that the Denver Nuggets would be in the position that they're in right now without Jamal Murray. Let's especially look back at their first series against the Utah Jazz. Now, if you guys remember that series, it was a few weeks ago, right? The Denver Nuggets, I believe, won Game 1. And then from there, the Jazz won 3 in a row. And it looked like they were really there to, take it. They looked like it was their series to lose, and it was. And they found a way to lose it because of Jamal Murray and the insane games he was having. In the first round, he averaged 31.6 points on 55% shooting from the field, 53% from 3, and 92% from the line. Those are some of the best shooting splits, you can really have. You don't expect more than, 92% from the line or so. There are guys who've hit like 95% of their free throws, but 92% is amazing. 53% from 3. I mean, it takes a special guy to be able to take so many threes and so many shots and just make so many of them. I mean, this guy is shooting at an insane clip right now. And it just seems like he can't miss. The classic meme, he can't miss. And it just feels like that right now for Jamal Murray, He's taken some insane shots. He's taken some deep threes, off the dribble type stuff, guys in his face, and even just some catch and shoot stuff. And no matter what kind of shot he takes, every time I watch Jamal take a shot, I immediately am just like, that's going in. It's going in. Because that's the kind of stuff that he's earned during this playoffs. He's earned that kind of reputation of, you gotta be closing out against this guy. And the only team that's managed to do that decently successfully is the Los Angeles Clippers, right? I mean, they have so many perimeter defenders. You look at Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Patrick Beverley, right? They got a lot of guys who can come to the perimeter and just absolutely get in your face, do anything they can. They can close out super well. They're great against shooters. And they locked him up pretty well for a few games, but even then, I think Murray really did contribute to that big comeback that they had from down 3-1 against the Los Angeles Clippers. And it really seems like he's continued that same momentum that he's had in these last 2 series, and he's taken that and he's just kind of added to it a little bit, right? Because he's facing a better team in the Los Angeles Clippers, right? They still don't have, the same level of perimeter defense. No Avery Bradley there. You're mainly looking at guys like Rajon Rondo, and sometimes on some possessions he gets LeBron, but not very often. KCP sometimes guards him. A few of those guys, but not really the same level of perimeter defense. But still, he's facing a better team, and somehow he's putting up pretty insane numbers. And the Denver Nuggets would be down. They would actually be out of this series right now if it wasn't for him. They would have gotten swept, which is pretty crazy because they also have Jokic, who I haven't even mentioned so far when talking about the Nuggets, and that's just how prolific Jamal Murray's been this playoffs. Now, I know Jokic is their star. He's their superstar player. Without Jokic, this team might not even be in the playoffs in the first place. But, it's been Jamal Murray who's been the one that stepped up, and I'd even say he's probably been their best player in the playoffs. That might be crazy to say. A lot of Jokic stands might come after me, but I really think that Murray, especially after that first round series, he had a lot to prove. And, he saved them against a Utah Jazz team that had the best performing player in the first round in Donovan Mitchell. There was only one guy who played better than Jamal Murray, really, in the first round, and it was Donovan Mitchell. I mean, this guy was lights out, like he was carrying the team like his name was Michael Jordan, right? I mean, it was ridiculous what this guy was doing on a game-to-game basis, and he left his heart out there, and it just wasn't enough, right? And they had Rudy Gobert, who managed to, after game one, really, because at game one, Gobert had a little trouble with Jokic, but it kind of went under the radar that, many of the other games, Gobert was, playing at least, good to great defense on Nikola Jokic and limiting him to an extent. It's very hard to neutralize Jokic, unless your name is Dwight Howard, of course. But Jokic is a hard guy to guard, and Gobert managed to clamp him up at least a decent bit in that series, and yet the Nuggets somehow came back from down 3-1, and we owe a lot of that to Jamal Murray and his play, And so the real question for Murray now is, can he replicate this in the regular season? How will he play next season? What's his career trajectory? Do we see him making an all-star team, an all-NBA team, maybe a award winner down the line, And to that I say, I think next season he's going to be better, right? Now, to what extent, I'm not 100% sure yet. But if I had to make a prediction right now, I'm saying he's going to average 23 plus points. And I think he'll at least be in the talks for an all-star team. All-NBA, I'm not ready to put him there yet, especially not with Steph Curry coming back into the West, right? I mean, he's guaranteed one spot, right? And there's a bunch of guys in the West guards that are amazing, so, it's really hard to see him making an All-NBA team. But an All-Star team, I think he may be able to sneak in there. I think he'll be in the conversation. Now, what I see him potentially winning, awards-wise, is Most Improved Player. I think if he goes from under 20 points, like around 18.5, I believe, this season, to like 25 plus points next season, and he manages to get Denver to win a few more games, maybe they're the second seed in the West, right? I see that as, potential, potentially winning him the Most Improved Player award. Now, there's going to be guys who maybe make bigger jumps than that. Maybe they go from a guy who hasn't really proved too much yet to a star in the league, but I think Jamal Murray could be a guy that we're looking at as a top 10 point guard, like locked in top 10 point guard next season. Like, I think he might be able to be better than, like, Kyle Lowry. I mean, that's a tough decision to make between him and Lowry, because Lowry was also great this postseason, and he was great this regular season. But I think he can be on that same tier. And even though I don't believe that the Denver Nuggets will emerge out of this postseason, I think that they're going to lose to the Lakers. They're down 3-1, right? I don't think they're going to win. But I have to give them their credit. I don't think anybody can take away what the Denver Nuggets have done this postseason, right? I mean, they come back from down from 2-3-1 leads, and they stole a game from a Los Angeles Lakers team who we see as the favorites to win the finals. A great team with guys like Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Jokic was also having some troubles with Dwight Howard on him most of the series. So we really have to look at what Jamal Murray's done in a historical context and really determine how good was this guy in the postseason. And I think he's proved to be a star.